senses at peace upon the plain.
Okay, it's 2/23, 2022. It's still Mirror Week. Bunch of palindrome activity going on. Nothing to be alarmed by. Just a Cup says, still waiting to get into the Discord. Sure, just join the Patreon and click the link, or join the site at infiniteplane.radio. I highly recommend it. The think tank is really ground zero for this meme epidemic. The meme on the screen, it's got Elmo looking at a nuke blowing up the firmament. It says, me, waiting for Armageddon, 2 minutes until 2:22 local time on 2/2/2222. I have a lot of 2 fatigue at the moment, and I'm really thinking now that this whole week is going to be pretty much spectacular, starting with yesterday. Yesterday, I think they released the Kraken. If you didn't watch the DONDA event, you missed out. We're talking about the event with Kanye West, loaded with symbolism. I mean, yesterday was definitely one of these days, I think, that really measured up to what I would have expected. Even though it wasn't like completely spectacular 9/11-y, there were many, many strange coincidences yesterday that are impossible to ignore. One of them that really stood out the most was the event with Elton John ROCKETMAN having an emergency landing, which we'll get into that as well. Let me also be addressing your comments, but let's see here. So basically it was this. Yesterday was the twos, but the reason why we really were talking about this in the first place is the month started with a big psyop on the 2nd with a guy named Amir. And so you're like, well, Amir, it seems like there's something to the word phonetically. But then you also have the timestamp of his death, specifically being 648, a mirror of 846, the major George Floyd number. And again, we're talking about another Twin Cities event. Portal Complex says, just hopped off the subway from Crater Earth. Yep, we were just over there hanging out at Crater Earth. And by the way, I already had a talk earlier this morning with Micah Dank. We did a podcast that will be premiering later. And that, of course, is Micah Dank, the author, astrotheologist, a decoder of holy books, so-called holy books. Evolvement says, one of my favorite, show me a live stream of the Earth whirling with the buildings upside down. Yes, Chief Crow wears the curve. And so one of the things that we talked about yesterday was Pluto, the significance of Pluto in the bigger context. And right now we're dealing with, well, we're witnessing the free crack pipe distribution agenda. And I'm saying they released the Kraken. It's all symbolic. Release the Kraken. And the Kraken is the coming civil war, the split, the final move in this takeover of the globe by this monolithic cult. They have to destroy the remaining challengers. And I think that's where we're at right now. So we're watching this Kraken narrative unfold, and it ties into the election, it ties into so much else. And then, of all things, turns out that Pluto's return, which again corresponds to July 4th of 1776, Pluto's return has a tie-in to the Kraken agenda, as in Pluto is Hades, and Hades created the Kraken. Predator News Now says, I sent you an email regarding my online account for the Discord invite. Awesome. Yeah, send me the emails, and basically though, if you're on Patreon or if you go to infiniteplane.radio and you join, there's a link that says Discord, and it gets you right into the think tank. So here's the newsletter from yesterday, and I'll see if we've missed anything here. I'm expecting Hades to return on Tuesday, the 22nd, and again, this is because of Pluto's return to the point of where it was in July of 1776. But the word Kraken has been injected steadily into the mass consciousness since the lead up, really starting, I would say, in July of 2020. So since this lead up to the 2020 U.S. presidential election, we've been seeing the word crack, well, Kraken and crack, both being injected into the mass media. You had crack addict Michael Lindell attempting to overturn the election. You had Hunter Biden's crack pipe usage. You had the Kraken in the form of Sidney Powell, again working on the election agenda. And now, again, we have the nonstop references, and it's not over yet. And then Joe Biden's new communism. It used to be a chicken in every pot, now it's a crack pipe in every pot. So, as we've been saying, though, this word crack, in my opinion, is about a rift. It's about a split in this country, a cultural and political fault line that will break upon the release of the Kraken, whatever that happens to be. So, what is the Kraken? And that's what we've been discussing on this channel. And then, is it, like there are so many possibilities. Is it going to be a tsunami, some kind of nuke on the West Coast? They're going to take out the space station. All these different scenarios have come into play. And let's just take a quick look here at the drudgereport.com. One of the top sources for being totally misinformed about reality. And you'll see yesterday, the imagery even looked like July 4th, fireworks, etc. But massive cyber attack, new superpower struggle. There are suggestions that our satellites will be taken down. So they have really turned on the World War III thing. And look, yesterday we talked about this. Logos, signs, symbolism, and we were talking about the prophetic nature of Westworld. And this all ties in to yesterday and DONDA2, Kanye's record release party. Because there's a Westworld tie-in. Not just the name Kanye West, Westworld, but the central feature of Westworld, the house, like the burning house on the stage yesterday. And then you also had the appearance of, and the presence of Marilyn Manson there. And his tie-in also would introduce Westworld in that he was the antagonist to the main character in Westworld. In real life, rather. It's interesting what they've done here. So if you're not familiar with this, let me bring this up really quick. So Evan Wood is I believe she's 33 now, Evan Rachel Wood. And she's the one who, and just yesterday, she was detailing the abuse by Marilyn Manson. Phoenix Rising trailer. Evan Rachel Wood rises from the ashes, talking about her abuse by Marilyn Manson. So here you have a 33-year-old. Think about this, the consistency here, the symbolism. And this just came out yesterday. 33-year-old Phoenix Rising. The Phoenix 33 connection I could go into endlessly. My point being, I think this is a psyop. And I think the purpose of this psyop, we'll be explaining here, is the reintroduction of this Manson archetype. Charles Manson, the madman, the cult leader. And of course, this also ties in with our bigger picture analysis that shows the superimposition of 1968 and 69 over 2020 and 2021, specifically with the use of this Manson character, killings that occurred on the anniversary of the Manson dates. You even have some interesting correlations between the Tate Lee Bianco killings and one of the individuals suing him, her name being Bianco. You get Alpha and Omega. And, one of the things that we talked about with Micah Dank this morning that actually relates to this is he brought up Aquarius. And one of the ways of describing Aquarius, this new age, is man-son. Man-son. And so this all ties in to this record release party yesterday, DONDA2, and the symbolism of the stage. And it's all telling the story about the burning of Westworld, the West, Western chauvinism. Again, Evan Rachel, her role in the movie was she was the mind-controlled, abused subject. And the antagonist was this man with the black hat, black clothes, really dark Saturnian disposition. And she's the victim who eventually realizes that she's under control and that this guy is basically the devil. Well, when Evan Rachel saw Marilyn Manson at the last Kanye event where he set himself on fire, a phoenix, a burning man, more consistent symbolism, she suddenly had flashbacks about Marilyn Manson's abuse. Well, in the movie Westworld in the series, it's the same thing. She eventually realizes she pieces it together that the man in black is actually the antagonist, who is someone she has to overcome. So these are parallel stories. Now let's go ahead and continue. One other thing about the Westworld logo worth looking at is this is from 3/15/2020. We're looking at season 3, where you have an individual kneeling and they're in front of a building. You can see the building going right through their chest the way it's superimposed. And I think this is about the impalement, the vaccination, the 311 agenda, that the pandemic and what followed. It says free will is not free. So it's about the loss of freedom and submission. That's what kneeling means. And this is all very significant too, because remember, 33, Phoenix. Twin Towers go up 1968. 33 years later, they burn them down. Creation, destruction. 13 years later, it's your Phoenix number, 13, resurrection number. They raise them back up. They build it back up into a single tower. And so the Twin Towers, burning after 33, being replaced after 13, open up on 113, November the 3rd. So this has a great deal of significance in a couple of things I could point at. One would be Apollo 11 blowing up at 113 p.m. And the other would be the Challenger exploding at 1 minute and 13 seconds. 113. It's the number of the Challenger being destroyed, the resurrection, the Twin Towers going down, opening back up. So again, what I'm suggesting here is that the Twin Towers going down symbolically, I believe, represents mankind brought to his knees, the kneeling. That's what it symbolizes. The Twin Towers could be correlated to the twin pillars of the Masonic Lodge, with the pillars representing the thigh bones. So the tower is being taken out. It's you kneeling. They're taking your knees. So here he is kneeling to the new tower. The new tower, the one in New York rather, is 1,776 feet high. Significance there, a couple of things. 888 in Christian gematria, which, again, you know my thoughts on gematria, don't care for it. However, it's a language. There's a pattern here you can discern. So you multiply 888 times 2, you get 1776. Second coming encoded into this new tower. This new age, second coming. Now, the kneeling to the single tower, if you ask me, is about submission to the one world system. That's what it represents, and that's why the towers tend to look like big vax needles. Now, one more thing. Well, two more things. When you look closer at the logo, here's another 9/11, 3/11 tie-in. It says Westworld, and it has 3 bars. Now, the 3 bars are for season 1, 2, 3. However, it almost looks like, well, it looks like you're staring out a window at the Twin Towers. So that's a 9/11 connection to season 3. And then the other version of the logo has a W with a pillar on each side. So it's 2 W's, West World. But if you look at it sideways, you also get your 311 out of it. Heavily encoded. Twin Tower 311 connections. Okay, I'm going through your comments. Ashley, Miss Kitty said, had an emergency alert but was very quiet and low. Anyone else see it on TV 20 minutes ago? Have not yet. Maxwell Cooper says the Twin Towers coordinates were at 40 degrees, 42, 42. Okay, now this is interesting too. This goes really, let's get into today and what has recently happened. So 222 is a significant date for a few reasons to us here. Happens to be the date of Mad Mike's crash, his final rocket launch. I don't know if you'd call it a crash. It's a daredevil stunt. But my point being, it was on 222, and he had this movie out on Amazon called ROCKETMAN. And it seemed very interesting to me that you have a movie called ROCKETMAN out, and all of a sudden, Elton John has a movie coming out called ROCKETMAN. And we were noting how it seems like the timing of the movie might have been intentional, perhaps to bury our ROCKETMAN, our friend. Bury him in the headlines, cover up his movie, because what they're doing is we're talking about Mad Mike Hughes and his mission to prove the Earth flat. And if you haven't seen that documentary, we should probably look at this first, and then you're going to see the Elton John tie-in to this whole thing, and it connects to 9/11 and the falling man. This gets really intricate, but you'll see. Let me go ahead and play this first, just to get everything into context. So on 2/22/2020, Mad Mike had his final rocket launch and crash, but prior to that, he had a successful launch, set a few records here and there, world records. No big deal. Some guy with a $15 an hour salary hand makes his own rocket and sends himself up, unlike the simulated astronauts. Anyway, I'm going to play the trailer, ROCKETMAN, and I'll be right back. It's about 2 minutes.
These things are not easy to do.
A California man is getting ready to launch himself into the air in a homemade rocket to prove that the Earth is flat.
My favorite, barbecued moron.
A lot of people got the idea that he's just some kind of a nut. He might just be crazy.
I believe in the geocentric flat Earth model.
Joe Rogan called him crazy, so that tells you something there.
This is America. We can believe whatever we want.
People have lost faith in experts.
Scientific facts are completely debatable.
The Earth isn't flat.
I'm not going to take anyone else's word for it. I'm going to build my own rocket right here, and I'm going to see with my own eyes what shape this world we live on.
Look, any idiot can sit in their bedroom uploading conspiracy theories to YouTube, but it takes a special idiot to launch himself into space for the cause.
What do I do if shit goes south? Did you leave a letter or something? What do you want me to do?
Now here you have it breaking down the headlines, BBC News, CBS News, Fox, Comedy Central, Forbes. So my point is, this was grabbing headlines. It was a trending story, 17 national newspapers trending on Facebook for something like 3 days straight. So I'm going to go and put a link in the chat. You can watch the rest of the trailer. I highly recommend going to Amazon, but you can see it here, realrocketman.com, ROCKETMAN. Now this movie, this documentary, it did very well. It's doing very well. He went on to do a reality TV show, Homemade Astronauts, and it was during the filming of Homemade Astronauts where the last launch took place on 2/22/2020, so 2 years ago. So now, while this movie was being produced, or right after it came out, suddenly you had Elton John's corny movie called ROCKETMAN. So if you search for ROCKETMAN, you were getting Mad Mike, but then they started to drown it out, and we thought, well, this could be a coincidence. So here you have this cheesy ROCKETMAN movie, and I thought this has got to be an SEO grab to steal traffic that was steering towards this research flat Earth and this growing movement of people who are actually getting behind taking some kind of action to resolve this flat Earth question. Now here's where it gets interesting. Elton John yesterday says Elton John nearly ended up becoming a rocket man. The famed singer suffered a terrifying ordeal when the private jet he was flying, again this is yesterday on 2/22, so on the anniversary of ROCKETMAN's final launch, this other ROCKETMAN has this ordeal, and it gets all kinds of coverage, and they describe it in ways that make it sound like it was a crash. It says, John was flying from UK to New York. He had to perform, well, it says here he was on a private jet, and they suffered a hydraulic failure at 10,000 feet. The jet was buffeted and couldn't land. It was horrible to see, a witness told them. The plane was being buffeted and couldn't make it, Thompson said. The aircraft's nose was too vertical. The plane was descending and was halfway along the runway when he gave up trying to hit the tarmac, and it soared back up in the air. So it nearly crashed and it went back up. A crowd gathered after word went round that Elton John was having difficulty. So it sounds to me kind of hoaxy that people would be screaming, hey, Elton John's going to crash, and they all just run out to see. Like, no way. Now it says this was the third attempt to land when the plane finally got down. The pilot made a flatter approach and the wind dropped. Everyone is slightly relieved. So here we have it. Elton John has a near crash landing and nearly becomes a, quote, rocket man on 2/2 2222. A couple more things on this because it gets even weirder. It really gets stranger here. So it turns out we've been talking about the 9/11 and the synchronicities, the coding, the numbers, specifically like 42. So here's an example. The falling man photograph. This is a very interesting little thing. This is all documentable. This is, quote, history. So on 9/11, you have the falling man photo. And you've probably all seen it. The falling man is the person who looks like the Hanged Man Tarot card. He's falling from the Twin Tower. I'll put it on the screen here. Shot by AP photographer Richard Drew. So this picture is weird in its own way. It's a very perfect shot. Now what makes it stranger is that the photographer is also the guy who photographed RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, as he was dying. So you see a few consistencies here. Here that brings in a Kennedy tie-in to this 9/11 thing. And we always see the number 42 associated with falling. And someone mentioned the coordinates of the Twin Towers. I have to check on that because it's very consistent. This use of the number 42 having to do with falling. It's associated with Saturn and a few other things, but it's super consistent. So, for example, he was shot dead with the 22. You had Isaac Cappy, initials IK 9/11. He fell exactly 22 feet and died, age of 22. Now, these are consistent things. Now, the Elton John event, the plane emergency crash landing happened at 11:19 a.m. So 11:19 or 9/11 reversed. Ambulance and crew, here we go. Ambulance crews and the police were alerted at 11:19. Firefighters from 6 stations raced to the scene and the runway was cleared. So it was a drama that they created. Again, what is the point to this? Well, they talk about ROCKETMAN, emergency, horrific, near accident. It seems like perhaps they're trying to, I don't know, steer traffic. But now here's the thing. The photograph that I brought up of the 9/11 jumper is actually owned by none other than Elton John. So it says here, Elton John is describing the photograph. It's been denounced as cold-blooded, ghoulish, and sadistic. It says, Elton John called it one of the most perfect photographs ever taken. So he actually has the piece. Here's a photo of Elton John showing off his collection of pictures. And it says here, he'll collect controversial work, unsettling images like the photograph of the falling man taken on 9/11 by Richard Drew. Elton John said of the photo, it's the most beautiful image of something so tragic. It's one of the most perfect photographs ever taken. So there you have it. He actually owns the photo, and there's more. In his home in Atlanta, Elton John has a collection where he's got photos from the Manson killings. He's got a lot of interesting photos, which I'll go into all these things, these Elton John connections, but I wanted to focus on this one. He owns that 9/11 jumper photo. A couple other things. In the last few days, we had a couple of crashes. You had the beach copter crash, and then you had a police officer killed in Huntington Beach in a copter crash. Well, that was mirrored yesterday, another 2 crashes, but yesterday this is just too many helicopters. Just pointing this out. You had the 2 crashes last week. You had the other one yesterday, some National Guard thing out in the Pacific. Well, then you had another 2 crashes. So yesterday in a place called Fork Canyon. Now think about the symbolism here. Yesterday is all about the 2s, the mirror, palindrome week. So you got a split, a mirror, a crack. We're talking about this repeated theme here. Well, here you have 2 or twins, again another splitting, like the Twin Cities killing of a mirror. You have 2 National Guard Black Hawk helicopters crash yesterday. And they crashed in Fork Canyon. So Fork gives you another split. Says the Black Hawks were with the 2nd General Support of the 211th Aviation Regiment. So 211, maybe a 22, 2nd General Support. A lot of 2s, and I have a lot of 2 fatigue. But again, these crashes happen in a place called Fork Canyon. Fort Canyon, 2 Black Hawks going down. So these are twins. And again, 2 Black Hawks. A few significant things about that I think we could extrapolate. But the main thing I want to point out here, twins. And falling. They were falling. Another repeated theme for yesterday. And this, I think, would also tie into this. On January 30th, we had the Miss USA, a black beauty queen, falling from the Orion building onto 42nd Street. There's that number again. She falls from the Orion building, a beauty queen, dying on 42 or 42nd. Now 42nd Street happens to be the street. This is interesting for a few reasons to me. It's the street where you had the Manhattan blackouts, the significant historical blackouts of 2019 and 1977, exactly 42 years apart to the day. The date was 7/13. So on July 13th, or 7/13, 1977, Manhattan blackout. There's a movie about it called Summer of Sam. It's when the son of Sam was running around shooting people. And that movie was directed by Spike Lee, which, if we mind map this, it'll blow your mind how Spike Lee's role seems to pop up in a lot of these psyops. Like, he's definitely, I would say, Kubrick level metascriptor. But anyway, we have this beauty queen dying on 42nd Street. She hits the ground at 7:13 a.m. according to TMZ. The significance there, the blackouts happen 42nd Street, 7:13. She hits the ground at 7:13 on that very same street. And then I watched a movie last week I've been talking about called 222. And this movie is about synchronicity. It's about astrology and about predestination and cycles. But anyway, the movie has everything to do with the train station on 42nd Street. Anyway, we'll go deeper into this, but this is the thing. The building she jumped out of, the Orion building, is actually, Orion is synonymous with Osiris. Another interesting correlation there, because we're talking about this ritualistic killing of a sun king. And then one other part of it that I think is noteworthy here, the Orion connection, of course, sun king falling, her initials, CK, which of course 311 gives you 33, but specifically her name is Chesley Christ, Kryst. It's like, well, there's a bit of stuff here layered. Then, of course, the queen and the royalty thing. Now, this is paralleled. There's another story here. Another beauty queen falling from another tower. So you have 2 towers, 2 beauty queens. Pageant pain inside the tragic beauty queen deaths of Zoe Sozo Bethel. These names ought to be decoded. You can get quite, there's quite a lot. We were looking at the symbolism in Betty White and the name Beth, and as it ties into the Bethlehem star, there may be something here. But anyway, dies weeks after Miss USA, Chesley Christ, jumps to her death. Now, a few things here. The falling is key. And also, it's about USA. Falling. USA, Babylon, falling. And then think about the number 33 and Phoenix that I've been mentioning. So you have the Burning Man in front of the White House in 2019, and he happened to be exactly 33 years old. But the thing about that ritual, because it was not a real event, this is ritual, is the guy was wearing a USA shirt. Again, this was 33 years after another guy did the same thing in the same place. This guy is 33, and he's wearing a USA shirt, so it's USA burning. So when I see this USA, Miss USA falling, again, it's all code. And of course the name Christ, TK33, super encoded. But now we have twins. We have two different towers. They also specify head injury. Let me go through some comments and then we will continue. Portal Complex says, sick of Glitter Boy and his fairy glasses. We all know the real Rocket Man. Yeah, I think they were trying to direct traffic away. That's what I think. Says Restless Bear says, weird. Klaus Huxley, very weird. Evolving Grace, that is weird. Yeah, absolutely, isn't it? The timing of it's bizarre. Marcel says, I don't believe in coincidence. Marve says they have to kill celebrities like Lady Di to get more money and resources. Yeah, I happen to think, though, Lady Di, Diana, Princess Diana, moon goddess name, hitting the 13th pillar. Your Mama says Elton's a baby eater. Evolving Grace says it was the chopper crash with Kobe kicking off the fake crap in 2020 rut row. True. And the chopper crash was predicted in several, like a cartoon, a commercial. There were several instances, but also it happened the week of the Challenger explosion. And the Challenger explosion happens at 1 minute 13 seconds. Correlates to the Apollo 11, 113. 113 is the Phoenix number. You'll even see November the 3rd, they released the iPhone 10 on that day for that reason. iPhone 10, iPhoenix. Again, they opened that new tower on 113. All right, going through some comments. Charles Wilhite says, I'm not surprised 2222 was a dud. They're running scared. Well, I don't think it was a dud. I think all the things we were expecting were being communicated, and as you'll see. JT33 says, real ROCKETMAN damage control. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? We're looking at Elton John being used for IPS damage control. Can this even be real? Well, if you think about the can of worms that we've opened and that we continue to pry at, if you consider the media coverage and the dissemination of dangerous memes, you can understand why, if this is an InfoWar, they would engage in these topics. Echo Charlie says, regarding Breonna March, George Floyd in May, two beauty queens. Now, Breonna Taylor is another one of these martyrs tied into this bigger agenda, and she's been brought up as of late because of Amir Locke. Same agenda, getting rid of no-knock warrants. And again, the names, Amir, it's Amir month, this is a palindrome week, it's a mirror of the George Floyd event, same attorney, same Twin Cities, another mirror reference. I mean, it's way too many coincidences here to just set that to the side. And I think his father said, my 22-year-old son, Amir, was killed on 22222 and have 22 days of peace. So I assume that ends tomorrow. The peace ends tomorrow, just a heads up. But again, the name Amir, significant. But his last name, Locke. So the video starts off at 6:48. Again, a mirror of 8:46. Super encoded events. I mean, you can't really overstate this. This is important because we're far beyond connecting dots and cherry picking or conjecture. This is beyond conspiracy theory. These are observations. The sun set on 5/25/2020 at 8:46, corresponding to the time that they knelt on George Floyd, corresponding to the time that 9/11 starts, 8:46. So for the Amir lock to start at 6:48, and they put the key in the lock at 6:48. And then they turn the key in the lock. And then they go shoot Amir lock. I mean, yes, twin Blackhawks crashing in Utah in Fork Canyon. I mean, think about that too. Fork. And yesterday was Pluto return. Oh, Pluto is Hades, released the Kraken. Well, look at the image of Pluto. And you got to see what he's carrying. Or Pluto or Hades. He's carrying a bident. Not a trident with three prongs, but a bident. And here he is with his dogs. It makes me think of Joe Biden. Kicking his dog or chasing his dog while he's naked out of the shower, trying to pull its tail. You know, all these Joe Biden dog stories. Okay, here's another one. Joe Biden recently left or talked about how he left a dead dog on some lady's door. Well, the significance here is that these underworld deities are, they have these psychopomps. They have the doorway. They have the deity that guides you to the underworld or guards it. So you have the three-headed guardian dog guarding Hades. You've got the dog-headed god that guides you into the underworld. So anyway, this is the guy who created the Kraken, also very significant. Release the crack pipes. Release the Kraken. And here you have a bident. And think about the role of Joe Biden in this present circumstance where we're looking at the schism and the crack and this split in our world. So it makes sense that you would have a Bident kind of encoded into the name. I don't believe these are coincidental. I mean, we've talked about the names of these various characters. I mean, Obama and Biden, Osama bin Laden, bin Laden. These are jokes. These are jokes. And if you're not laughing, you're being laughed at. I mean, I would rather laugh with them and at them. I don't like not being in the know about this stuff. Rocco points out there was a crash in the Pacific on 222. Yeah, there were 4 recent helicopters just crashing everywhere. And correct, Maxwell, Kobe was buried in Corona del Mar. But twin Black Hawks. Obrecht says, why a subtext to everything? Here's why. Because the elite that rule this place prefer to rule over people who are illiterate. That's why they were mad about movable type press. That's why they had a counter-reformation. And so even though you can read now, you've been rendered symbol illiterate. So you've been rendered visually illiterate when it comes to special effects. So what they've done is by having this 2-tiered interpretation, I think they've helped to maintain their power balance by keeping you in a state of ignorance. And the state of the subtext here, the storyline, I think this might be part of the astrotheological cult that runs the world. The religions all have a subtext. And the new religion is the one that comes out of your TV. I'm suggesting that the TV, I posit that the televised worldview, the MSM, is the new Bible. And that it is equally astrologically encoded. But that they use modern myths like the celebrity deaths, movies, films, actors playing archetypal roles. So what I think they've done is they've replaced the old religion with the new. It's very obvious with the space program when you look at the rocket obelisks. It's very obvious when you look at the new medical tyranny as just the reintroduction of a puritanical vision of reality. And new communion, a new form of baptism has been introduced, new religious garments. So the subtext, I think, is there to hide the rulers of this place in plain sight. And I think it's also perhaps a matter of communicating to one another above our heads. I don't even think it's that complicated so much as it's esoteric versus exoteric. Missing says it's too cold to riot in the Twin Cities. Yeah, the temperature is always going to be a problem. Now, March 4th is the date that the piece of space junk is going to hit the moon. And this is also significant, thinking about this Moonfall movie. So why all the Moonfall? Why the focus on stuff falling from the sky? Well, if you remember, right after COVID was declared a pandemic, as in on 3/11, we had the pandemic, then you had the emergency on 3/13, Friday the 13th, another Phoenix number. But on 3/16, 2020, you had what they called a Black Monday. It was the worst market crash in 33 years. Black Monday is given to stock market crashes that occurred on 4 different Mondays. So you go back, but the 87 one and the 2021, spaced 33 years apart, were connected with this one, specifically because the market crashes, it drops about 2,997 points on the Dow Jones. This is almost, well, it's a 9/11-y number, if you think about it. 3,000 dead, 3,000 going down. Dow plunged. Again, it falls down. Dow plunged 3,000 points. And this was on March 16th when U.S. had reported 66 deaths. 3,000 points. Again, a 9/11-y number. Now, my point being here is that this was on what they called a Black Monday, this market crash. And there was a TV show out called Black Monday. The TV show, Black Monday, had just started season 2 on that day. Season 1 was about the 87 market crash. So, interestingly enough, one of the actresses commented on this and said it was eerie that their new season debuts when an actual Black Monday market crash occurs. I haven't watched the show, but now here's where it ties into Moonfall. Sunday, Sun, Monday, Moon. Tuesday, Mars, Wednesday, Mercury, and so on. So, Monday market crash, Moonfall may pertain, I think, to another market crash. And I'm saying this because last year, It was all about to the moon, Dogecoin to the moon. There was all this hype with the cryptocurrency. Elon Musk started that. Then you had the billionaires racing to space, and the moon was the big meme last year that they were pushing. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to hit the moon with this crypto or that. We're going to put an actual literal Dogecoin on the moon. Well, Musk actually announced this to the moon agenda during the Wolf Moon. And he had his 2 starships up. Wolf Moon. I mean, the timing of these things is what really spells it all out. You know, because the wolf, the dog, to the moon, they're telling us a story here. So the to the moon is going to be followed by, I think, the moonfall. That's my point. So I think moonfall, black moon day, market crash. It has been conveyed. So I'm predicting more or less probably a crypto crash. Echo Charlie says IPS damage control in the script. In 1,000 years, there will only be one ROCKETMAN that had trouble on 222. Yeah, they rewrite history as we go along. Charles Wilhite says Kanye West is an anagram for nasty week. Correct. All right, let's see. Echo Charlie says, I'm good at the Christian subtext and layerings, Chinese mythology, no clue. Well, it is Year of the Tiger, if that tells you anything. You know, there may be something to it. The 33's encoded in there with the Bengals thing returning to the Super Bowl, but you know, as far as predicting, I don't know. I don't even know if that's what we're looking to do here so much as knowing what's really going on, though. It's not about predicting it so much as not being bamboozled with the masses. Like, we're not going to be the ones lining up to submit to the alien overlords. Evolving Grace says, this is what confuses me. They use symbols to communicate with each other, but why not use traditional methods? I don't mean to sound stupid, but what the... Well, do you know how gangs work? I mean, gangs and gang signs. Secret societies. And also, when you talk about secret societies, these aren't hypotheticals. These aren't things out of just movies or conspiracy theories. You're just talking about hierarchies within organizations that are layered according to a need-to-know basis. But we're talking about security clearances. A secret society is a society with security clearances. But again, the confusion or why would they communicate things obviously and openly and outwardly? That's the part that doesn't make sense. If you're going to do this operation, why would you telegraph it? That's what you're kind of asking. And I think that's where it ties into this place where media and magic intersect. And if you don't believe in magic, I understand, but the theory and practice of magic, you can study it, you can see how it's in operation. So to me, it's just a matter of what are they doing? What do they think they're doing? How does this work? But my point being, magic isn't simply card tricks or sleight of hand, but it's something more akin to, I would say, synchronizing human minds, turning them into matrix batteries, and somehow using the co-creative power of human beings to influence or manifest some projected future. I kind of think that's what we're looking at, like man playing God, in a sense. I don't know if it's like literally like evil versus good, or if it's just more mundane than that. But yeah, it's kind of hard for me to separate magic from all of this when it's all completely encoded with all of this occult symbology, and specifically the timing of these events. And it does imply, like I've said before, the cult that runs this world venerates, worships, or maybe they whatever it is, the word worship's appropriate. Maybe that's the one to use. But they tend to worship this ancient religion with the new guise. Marvay says a helicopter crash in Miami looked very fake. Yeah, that's the one where nobody was like watching. Like they're all just on the beach and then the helicopter crashes. Nobody even turns around. Klaus Huxley says they are magicians. Yeah, and if you're not willing to entertain that notion, it's because they told you. They said don't look behind the curtain. So if you're not willing to look into magic, you're actually outside the temple. You're hoodwinked. You're in the darkness. And they give this stuff away in their initiations, whatever cult you talk about when it comes to these secret societies. It's always about the inside, the insiders, the ones inside the temple who've seen the light. And they are groups separate from those outside the temple who exist in the darkness. So we have an Illuminati among us. We have a group of people who have seen the light. And this could also explain something about the why they would be so brazen about their symbols and out in the open, flashing their hand signs. It's possibly arrogance. Maybe they know they have everything on lockdown, and that only a small percentage of the population can even see that there is a cult that runs this place. And so they're just more or less arrogant, like Duper's Delight. How many times have you seen crisis actors laughing on TV when they should be crying or avoiding cameras, avoiding retaliation? It's like, yeah, I just watched this guy kill a bunch of people. We don't know where he's at now, but it was horrifying. And it's like, well, now he knows who you are. You're on TV. Klaus Huxley says, right, the plebes remain illiterate. That's a big part of it. Because another part of it, too, I think, in terms of power and control, is they've established a priesthood. They've established a priesthood or a de facto priesthood who have information or access to information that we don't. They have a divine mandate to rule, more or less. Now, March 4th, the moon's going to get hit. Again, March 4th could be a significant date. Originally, they said it was from SpaceX, that they had some piece of junk that was going to hit the moon, but now they said it's from China. Now, China is denying it. So if China's denying it, and SpaceX is denying it, then what is it? Is it a alien spacecraft? All right, let's see. Klaus says, signs and symbols rule the world, not words or laws. Van Gogh says, Bitcoin has always been associated with the moon. Even in the charts, you can see the price somewhat follows the moon cycles. Google Bitcoin full moon correlation. Okay. It says, if you backtest Bitcoin's 2021 correlation to the moon cycle, you find an 80% success rate. Does full moon affect crypto? Well, I think the market crash is being hinted at with the moonfall, because it goes deeper when you go into what moonfall was about. Moonfall and Don't Look Up, these movies are synonymous, and they might as well just be contiguous. They use the same archetypes and characters. Moonfall and Don't Look Up both have the new Noah, the Noah of our age that the sinners don't listen to. It's the disheveled scientist with the glasses, kind of a neck beard, he hasn't shaved, and he's basically working to save us, and nobody's listening. He's saying, you got to cut off your wickedness. No more dino juice. No more fossil fuels. The world can't take it. And of course, the sinners, aka the corporations, the capitalists, the consumers, they keep on consuming. They keep guzzling the gas, and so the world's going to end. Like, this is the story they've given us. The guy in Moonfall was 33, by the way, and he saves the world. But the point is, it's the money system. It's this desire for money that destroys the world. The earth is the Titanic. Global warming is the iceberg. In Don't Look Up, you got Mr. Titanic himself, Leonardo DiCaprio, pointing out the comet, which is like a space iceberg. And it's going to hit the earth if we don't listen to the scientists. So they listen to the guys with the money. They try to exploit the comet and mine it, and they all die. So there you have it. Capitalism is going to crash our system. There's a correlation between the money system and the environment. And that's what they've been trying to suggest. I can't breathe is something that they've taken to mean the atmosphere can't breathe. This system is oppressing the earth itself, not just the police oppression, but the environment itself. So the financial system's going to destroy the world if they don't do something. That's the market crash that's coming. Evolving Grace says, I believe in magic, it's real. From what I can tell, from what I've read, there's a important connection between the word magic and imagination and even magnetism. And it has to do with the law of attraction and the use of the imagination in manifesting. Now, whether or not you accept that as a premise that you are a co-creator or you're somehow cybernetically connected to the system, it's not even a matter of theory, it's an observation. If you've ever had a synchronicity that you you can't rule out, that you can rule out as just being a coincidence, a synchronicity that you can't just say merely a coincidence. And we point these things out all the time. We point out coincidences and things that require some high level of sophisticated planning. But my point is, it's one thing to see sophisticated planning and subtext and these nuanced storylines embedded into movies, which man films. But it's another when you have synchronicities in your own life, in your own experiences. Aside from precognition, premonition, telepathy, there are things that to me tell us that, yeah, we are in some level. It might just be 1%, but we're not just NPCs, is my point. And if you're not an NPC, if you're somehow connected to this thing and you're not aware of it, but the people who run this place are using the technology that they call magic, and they're using you in group magical rituals with your television altar, then yeah, I think we could make the place. This world is run by witches and warlocks who figured out how to game the system, turning you into a matrix battery. JT33 says there's great power in mere suggestion. Oh yeah, I think it was Saul Alinsky, the community organizer, who said that politics is downstream from culture. So they knew that if you want to influence somebody's voting decisions, you start feeding them memes and messages through Muppets when they're babies. That's why they give you dinosaurs when you're a kid. You have dinosaurs everywhere. You wear dinosaurs. You watch TV shows, cartoons, talking dinos. Big singing dinosaur to hug you, Barney. And then as soon as you learn how to talk, they say, oh, dinosaurs are dead. A big rock fell from the sky, hit this ball that we live on, and killed them all. Extinction. So your first word may not have been extinction, but it's mass extinction is one of the first concepts that you were taught to understand. No more dinosaurs. They've been wiped out. Charles Wilhite says, check out the book Real Magic by Dean Radin, PhD. Echo Charlie says, divine mandate to rule is not a vibe. Nope. Unless you accept Pope Francis as the vicar of Christ, that, yeah, God couldn't do any better than that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to pick somebody to be my representative on earth. It's going to be that out of touch commie in that big building surrounded by who knows how many homeless people. I mean, the wealth disparity. Charles Wilhite says, Whoopi Goldberg's real name is Karen. Is that a coincidence? Evolving Grace says, speaking of synchronicities, I have nonstop ones for a few years. It's like The Truman Show. Now, The Truman Show is an example of a movie that I think describes or shows what it's like to have a synchronicity. Was it a coincidence that the meteor fell? And you think it's kind of a synchronicity for him. It's a meaningful coincidence that the dog star falls and it precipitates this awakening. And then he starts noticing patterns. But you find out that his reality is being tampered with. Huxley says, didn't Alinsky also say that ridicule is the most powerful weapon? Yeah, I think in the Rules for Radicals he talked about the use of ridicule. It's all about the underdog taking on the system. All right, let's continue. On the screen, you're looking at a portal. This is from last night's DONDA2. So the DONDA release party happened last night on 2/22, which is described as Portal Day, which I didn't know. Apparently Kanye West knows. So his presentation, his concert listening party starts off with a big portal. Well, listen to this. This is from moonomens.com. The significance and power of 22, 22, 22 in numerology. I'm not going to read it. I don't care about numerology necessarily. However, this number has long been associated with this concept, so I just found it to be noteworthy that Kanye's Donda Experience performance has a big portal. And as we watched, it was very alchemical. Sun, moon. Of course, they were performing in a big concert arena that was dark, like a blackout. It looked like it was blacked out. And then you had the floor covered in water. And I was like, I hope nobody drops the mic. They could all be electrocuted. But they had rain boots. But that makes me think, okay, flood. Flood, blackouts. And then they have this house that burns. And remember last time they did this, Kanye West set himself on fire? Well, the significance there, That was on the anniversary date of the Burning Man festivals. I mean, what are the odds? They burned the house on the stage, and the way it burned, and I have images of all this stuff, it split in the middle, which made it look like they were trying to depict this idea of a house divided. Okay, I have so much to go through now. There's just quite a lot, so I want to go ahead and stay on track, but let me play this. So, South Pole is our cartoon, Infinite Plane Society. We've been putting this thing together. We're working on season 2. And a lot of our ideas somehow show up in South Park. I think it's just because we're drawing from the same meme pool. But more and more, it seems like every time I look at South Pole, they're getting more and more like what we're doing. Like on this channel, we've been openly mocking and ridiculing this New World Order religion, where science has replaced religion. Holy water, hand sanitizer, virus is the sin, global warming, wrath of God, COVID's your devil, original sin is your carbon footprint. Heaven is now outer space. Transcendence is something you do digitally. So we have this new religious paradigm. You got to be saved by the vax. Well, look. Here you have Oh My Science. This is South Park, God Go, Supercut.
What in science's name was that? It's the United Atheist Alliance! Oh, science, help us! Science? Damn you, Unified Atheist League! Who are they? Jesus Christ! You believe in
Science, damn you, praise science. Anyway, just...
But it wasn't until he met his beautiful wife.
So we're looking at science as religion, and this is pretty much what they have done. And again, my contention is that the television is the new pulpit. Not just the news media, but the entirety of it. The monolithic worldview you get from the TV. That's your Bible. And anything that doesn't come from your TV is extra canonical. It ought to be burned, censored. People should be penalized for publishing it. This is what they're doing right now. The censorship agenda is truly about this purification of our minds, purification of the Bible of the day. I think we're living through a sort of a Council of Nicaea moment here. They're assembling the new Bible, getting rid of the books that don't match up. As in, they got to get rid of fake news, got to get rid of conspiracy theories, got to get rid of things that don't fit the program that they already had to put into place. Science, damn you. And look, this is something else to consider. The person who's asking, is the world flat? Is it a ball? The person who's asking the question is more scientific than the person who just believed whatever they heard and never questioned it. You know, science is not a belief system. It's a methodology for figuring things out. And I think that's what people miss here. By the way, yesterday on 222 whatever, there was a headline on Drudge about Russia hacking into our satellites. Space wars, in other words. So cyber hacking, Russian military possibly taking these things down. Well, listen to this. This is from Random Fake Name. The last episode of Season 2 of Space Force is about Russia hacking U.S. satellites, bringing them down, blaming it on U.S. incompetence. And finally, the last scene is an asteroid hitting the Earth. Here's another interesting coincidence. Charles Wilhite posted this one. There's a sitcom in the 70s called Room 222. It ran for 113 episodes. Cals Huxley says, I hear a lot about space bioscience. I interpret it as inner space is the final frontier after all. Echo Charlie says, interest in the afterlife consumed the Egyptians. Well, I think it's a carrot on a stick. I think that digital transcendence and immortality is something that you will never get, but they'll convince you of it. Just like every religious system out there promises the way, and their way is just another one of these long cons that they use to guide you like a donkey chasing that carrot. Now, as far as the DONDA2 event, let me go through some more of the the pictures from the thing. It wasn't bad. As a release party, I thought it was actually it was pretty good. I was impressed by the theater of it, the theatrics. You had a lot of interesting imagery. It seemed like goo blood. Everyone's wearing black uniforms, black helmets. Yeah, black helmets was a thing with opaque lenses, like black iPhone screens over their eyes. I think it's all significant. Marching around like zombies. Loss of autonomy, like ants or drones. None of that is coincidental. But as far as like if I had to make a review or say if I liked it or if it was bad or good or whatever, I guess I would have to say this, that CERN needs to hire Kanye West to do their next portal opening ceremony. So yes, this is not CERN. This wasn't a CERN ritual. This was a Kanye release party. Marilyn Manson was there. Again, I believe Marilyn Manson has a very specific role to play, and it has to do with his name, Manson, his correlation to Westworld, because the whole thing, DONDA2, the burning of the house represents the West. It represents Western chauvinism. It represents the past that they're destroying in this revolution. That's why you have the Westworld tie-in, and then Kanye West, and then of course we talked about the tower that was burning in the Bronx, the Northwest Tower, the 19-story on 919 that had 19 people supposedly die in it. The space heater started that one. Again, another space reference. But no, the reason they brought Marilyn Manson is because of this tie-in also to 1969 and Charles Manson. And also, more importantly, Charles Manson's agenda, his whole purpose was Helter Skelter. So Helter Skelter is a race war. It's like Turner Diaries. And the idea of these killings was if we kill these people and blame it on the Black Panthers, we can cause an apocalyptic war. Manson spoke to members of the family. And by the way, the guy who owns the house, the Charles, where the killings happened, is the guy from Full House. This might also be a tie-in here, because think about the significance of the house. So you have Full House, and then you have the Charles Manson killings happening in the mansion. Here it is. Full House creator Jeff Franklin has the mansion that is built on the property where the murders took place, and he's selling it right now. So the Full House creator has that house, and it's selling for $85 million. There's probably some symbolism and stuff within the numbers there. The whole thing was obviously a psyop. Sharon Tate and the others being killed, or rather supposedly killed. I mean, it looks like a movie, a horror movie. Interesting Church of Satan tie-ins. Susan Atkins, topless dancer for the Church of Satan, of which Marilyn Manson is a high priest. So you have a Marilyn Manson Church of Satan tie-in connecting him to, of course, member Susan Atkins, who did these Manson killings, and is all done in the style of Rosemary's Baby, a Polanski film. And his wife was murdered, of course, and one of the victims was Rosemary LaBianca. Now, Helter Skelter, of course, race war. That's the main thing I want to bring up here. Charles Manson had been predicting race war, and the term Helter Skelter is a reference to this. According to this, the idea would be this. This is all. Let me move past the race war part, because it ties into that, but also later he got into this idea of environmentalism and the need that we're running out of air. Let me bring that up. There's a time when Charles Manson was about to get married to some goth, and she'd go hang out with him, and they would sit there talking about how we're going to run out of air. Here it is. Testimony of Paul Watkins. During your association with Charles Manson, I'll go through this stuff later, but my point being, this is Charles Manson, Marilyn Manson tie-in. Maybe there's one more I can bring up. So you have the LaBianca killings. The name LaBianca. So you got Manson and LaBianca. Now take the name Bianco, just change the A for the O, and you get another set of news stories. Evan Rachel Wood, and then you have a woman named Bianco suing Marilyn Manson. Esme Bianco. So I'm just saying the name there, Bianca, Bianco, AO. The documentary is called Phoenix Rising, and it's about Marilyn Manson and his abuse of all these women. So this is just now getting out, as of like right now, today. Yesterday it came out. It says Manson has been largely absent from the public eye since the allegations surfaced, aside from working alongside Kanye or Ye on the album Donda, and then being at the listening party. Again, this is a Westworld tie-in with Marilyn Manson to a Kanye West event, and Westworld centers around a house. And she's the one who leads the uprising, and of course brings about the destruction of this West world. So what I think we're looking at here with Marilyn Manson's role, I don't even know if these accusations are real. I would say if anything, we're looking at a scripted tale. Smoke and Mirror says, we live here right near the La Bianca house. Well then, okay, another thing too, AO, you think Alpha and Omega. And then with this Charles Manson narrative of Helter Skelter, it's really about the end of the world, like apocalypse. And I was speaking to Micah Dank this morning. He was talking about astrotheology, the usual stuff he talks about, but he was talking about Aquarius, and Aquarius being referred to as man's son. And so man's son is kind of interesting, as that we're entering the age of Aquarius, or we just entered it. So Aquarius, end of the world, apocalypse, Manson, all ties into this with the destruction of Westworld, or Western Civ, Western chauvinism, that thing that makes it so we can't breathe. Commenter says Charles Manson died on 119. Oh, 1119. Right, 1119. Now, on the anniversary date of the Manson killings, the guy that did the spearing of his children, his initials MC, Matthew Coleman. They reversed it because the anti-establishment is on the other side of the political spectrum now. You got these right-wing hippies. Now it's the right-wing hateful hippies doing yoga. It's not the liberal left. They switched these things. So now you got this right-wing Charles Manson figure. And they introduced him in the form of Matthew Coleman and the QAnon shaman. You see, Matthew Coleman doesn't have anything with Q associated with him except for these stories they say he was told by Q. Like Manson told me to do it. Q told me to do it. Well, Matthew Coleman, the guy who killed his kids, doesn't look like somebody who would kill his kids. He doesn't look like a Charles Manson. But you know who does? The QAnon shaman. Who does what? Runs around with a spear. So here you have a guy who kills his children with a spear because Q told him to. Then you have the QAnon shaman, Q sent me. And so if you ask me, what they've done is they've introduced the face of Q as a QAnon shaman, this wild man, this hippie, this, again, shaman, hippie, Charles Manson, shaman, hippie. And then, of course, the atrocity was done at behest of Q with a spear. And he stabbed his kid 17 times because of Q. Because, of course, the kid was a reptile. QAnon told him about the reptiles and that you have to kill the reptoids. So these are all ridiculous stories. You know, just go into the logic behind it. It's like there is nothing about reptilians in the QAnon narrative. But now this is something that you might find interesting. Because the symbol of the spear in the hands of the QAnon shaman, the symbol of the spear in the hands of this guy killing his kid, and one of the symbols that the QAnoners love to share is this symbol. And this is from George News, who's actually Q. Believe it or not, I mean, you will eventually, it's going to come out, but they constantly share the symbol of St. George spearing the dragon on the ground. So this idea of the spear being the symbol of Q, highly significant. Okay, let me continue. Smoke and Mirror here says, Katy Perry, aka JonBenet Ramsey, lives just above the La Bianca house in a monastery she stole from some nuns. Yeah, Kate Perry is JonBenet Ramsey. If you have any doubts about that, look at the parents. The parents are not even bothering to change anything. I think the father shaved his head and got his ears pierced, but that's about it. All right, let me continue going through my notes. Mr. Most Woke says 322. The whole month of March will be a psyop, he says. There won't be another 322. Yeah, he's suggesting it's too obvious. They did the King Supers killing on 322, then 322 days later, there's like another shooting. Go find the others folded up a $2 bill. Because it turns out the $100 bill folded up shows you a Space Needle with an EMP above it. The $20 bill folded up gives you 9/11. Well, the $2 bill gives you what appears to be an owl. But I guess what we had found was the $100 bill has a clock pointed at 222 on it. Now, the world didn't end yesterday, but I don't think it was meant to. I think what we're looking at is Hades' return signifies the release of the Kraken. And if I had to guess, like when Kraken, I would probably say Kraken on Wednesday. And the reason I say so is that, well, no, Thursday, the 24th. Because the father of Amir Locke said 22 days of peace. What happens after that 22 days of peace? Bob CZZ says, I just listened to your interview with Jordan Maxwell. He said you were a Jesuit gatekeeper. He won't touch on how everything is fake. He thinks the JFK assassination was real, but he has good information on how words are used. If you look at his profile pic, he gives Masonic hand signs. Good job on the interview. I just wish you would have talked about more of the fakery. Okay, so when I discuss these topics with people who've been in it for decades, I always keep in mind that the cutting edge information that we've received in the last 5 years has been a major paradigm shift. And if you spent most of your life married to the paradigm where this event happened in a certain way, it's like changing religions. We're talking about a major worldview shift from everything on the news is true, but it's worse than they say and they're lying about some things. That's different from none of it's true. It's all a story. And it's not that it's all fake. It's just that it's not reporting and that the primary purpose is narrative. They never let facts get in the way. But there is some reporting that happens here and there, I've heard. I mean, I think the weatherman was right a couple months ago. I can't recall. Has anybody here been able to use the news in any predictive way? No, I don't think so. But that's nice. Yes, I'm not a Jesuit gatekeeper. I don't think. I don't know who it is leaving these manila envelopes stuffed with cash at my house whenever I don't mention the Jesuits. Not sure who's doing that. Okay, I got another message here. This is from Boring NPC. Yeah, if you email me at timosmond007, I get all the emails and I respond. Or if I can't respond, I will bring it up live. Okay, so Boring NPC. He says, in literature, authors sometimes hide the main story within the story. An example would be a Christ figure with the initials JC, such as Jim Casey in Grapes of Wrath. Right, like John Connor, Terminator, written by James Cameron. The JC, Jim Carrey, often plays Christ archetypes, definitely. He says, you've noted that the Metascript writers seem to be well versed in literature and culture, so they're probably Ivy Leaguers who have a universe of material to draw on from novels, the Bible, history, film, and TV. So he has a list here. He says, I've been building up a list. You're welcome to take or leave as you see fit. Thanks. Boring NPC. So he has 7 things we need to look into here. David Bowie, DB42. I think you know this. Yep. David Bowie, DB42, man who fell to earth. There's another correlation between the falling and number 42. David Bowie is very heavily integrated into the whole space odyssey that we've all been through. I'd say what's more, David Bowie's music was played during the first music video in space. His music was used with the Tesla Roadster. And the Tesla Roadster had a David Bowie song playing, and it had a reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was Don't Panic. And again, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is all about the number 42. And the meaning of it in that movie has to do with this AI, or intelligent God computer brain. But again, the driver in the Tesla Roadster, nothing Tesla Roadster, I think that, didn't Bowie play, I think it was in a movie, did he play the character Tesla? But anyway, the guy in the driver's seat was called Mr. Satan. No, Starman, excuse me. Starman, a David Bowie song. Anagram for Mr. Satan. Again, man who fell to earth. Okay, next one he brings up, Colin Kaepernick, CK311. Yep, born on 11/3. Colin Kaepernick, CK. And he was working with the beauty queen Chesley Christ on the set of Colin in Black and White. Again, 311. He was, okay, who shot, here's another one here. A House Divided was the final episode of Season 3 of the show Dallas. According to Wikipedia, it's the second highest rated TV show in history. And it aired on 3/21/1980. So this year will be its 42nd anniversary. Okay, this is probably significant here. A House Divided, from the TV show Dallas, being the highest rated TV show in history, and its 42nd anniversary of A House Divided is coming up. And this stands out to me because when I was looking at this Kanye West thing, and I'll bring up some pictures now, I was noticing that the burning house looked like a house divided, which is a speech given by President Lincoln. So there's some Lincoln connections here. Of course, Civil War. Okay, here are some pictures from the event, and this is the picture where it looks like the house is split. So you can see it's not a total immolation. The house is literally split in the middle with this fire, with this light. Yep, Coyote Smoke and Mirror says, you're right, Kate Perry and John Benet Ramsey's parents are the same. The mom had some eye lifts, and the father shaved his head and had some nose surgery. Yeah, it's just a hipper version of their younger selves. The mom didn't even change her hair. Alright, let us continue. Smoke and Mirror asks, I wonder who the skeleton is in the spacesuit in the Tesla Roadster. Right. Well, speaking of Bowie, the Bowie album that was posthumously released, or no, actually he died right after its release, or fake died. A whole other story there. But there's a video for one of the tracks, I think it's Black Star, where you have an astronaut on the moon who's basically a skeleton. And that's Major Tom from Space Oddity, which happens to be the first song or music video performed in space. Yes, David Bowie did play Tesla in The Prestige. That's a connection. Directed by Christopher Nolan, the same guy that made the Dark Knight movies. Now, Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight. Well, Dark Knight has the use of the bat as Phoenix, which is very significant. Because again, the Phoenix is a symbol of the reset. Burn down, build back better. Well, what was the catalyst for this reset? What was the spark that started this fire? You know, it was the bat soup. Not properly heated to the recommended 160 degrees for wild game. Okay, here's another image from the DONDA event with Marilyn Manson representing, I believe, the end of the world, or Helter Skelter. Black and white, alchemy. That's the main part of it here. A lot of sun and moon corona stuff throughout. Space helmets. So these people marching around like zombies through the whole thing in the water. It's all dark. Again, it looks like blackout. And it's all foggy and smoky. So when I'm watching this release party, In context, Kanye West played the role of the Burning Man, the Phoenix. It's about the destruction of the West. That's why his name is so significant. Didn't he just get rid of his name too? Changed it from West to Ye? Disposing of a name, very significant. Again, there's a lot here suggesting that it might even start in the Northwest, that there will be a blackout, that there will be fallout. In other words, EMP high in the sky, just like the $100 bill suggested. The $100 bill with the 222 reference on its clock, referencing the date that Pluto returns. Pluto, Hades, to release the Kraken. So basically the gates of hell opened yesterday. And what you're seeing here is what happens when the Kraken's released. When the fallout's coming down. Everyone's going to be wearing helmets. Everyone's going to have these lenses. We're all going to be in space suits because our environment is no longer hospitable to human life. Notice too, the power's out, so it's dark. And they're up to their ankles in water. So here they are in the flood, in the dark, with the fallout, and all their helmets, and they all look the same. Just a bunch of drones. And of course, I think the fact that they're all dressed in black head to toe, it's the Saturnian thing. It might even be a Goo Blood reference. Let's continue. We're looking through some more of these clips from this event. Again, the burning house. Now, here's the another tie-in. So you have the house here that ties into the Westworld house. And again, we're talking about the destruction of the West. Well, the Rust movie set, which had a 42-year-old getting shot and killed by a 24-year-old, a mere of 42, 24, 42. So you have Halyna Hutchins getting killed, and then, of course, the other guy, Joel Souza, just gets shot, doesn't die. The shooter, Alec Baldwin, dresses as Donald Trump routinely. He is so deranged with his hatred for Trump that he has openly said, I want a meteor to hit the White House. So wait, he wants a space rock to hit the White House with Trump in it, ostensibly, right? So you're like, okay, this makes it very interesting to me then that the guy who shoots happens to have Donald Trump's birthday, 6/14. So that's one thing that stands out. The guy who dresses as Trump, who hates Trump, shoots a guy with Trump's birthday after saying he wants a meteor to hit Trump in the White House. And the movie Don't Look Up comes out. And the trailer even says this. In 6 months and 14 days, the world will be destroyed by a comet. 6/14. Comet. Again, 6/14, Trump's birthday, meteor hitting the White House. That movie is about the world being destroyed, the West being destroyed. So if you look at the West as a metaphor, again, the Titanic that's going to be sunk, you can even see that the Rust shooting has a bit of a tie-in here. And again, these are not coincidental. And these are just a few. We're kind of just scratching the surface here. Again, Marilyn Manson being the subject of a documentary that's going to destroy him, the documentary called Phoenix Rising. Again, that to me suggests a sacrifice, kind of like Joe Rogan. Check out the numbers here. They pulled 42 Joe Rogan tracks. And I called it then. This was around the 42nd anniversary of the eruption over there at St. Vincent Island of that volcano. 42-year anniversary volcanic eruption, and Spotify says we're pulling 42 Joe Rogan tracks because snowflakes. Okay, 42. It's the number of falling from grace. Just falling in general. He's going to take a fall. Well, then fast forward now, almost a year later, they pulled 71 more tracks, giving him a total of 113, the Phoenix number. So Joe Rogan, is he a sacrifice? Is he sacrificing himself for the cause of destroying free speech? Is Marilyn Manson a self-immolation? Is this also part of sacrificing an idol, iconoclasm? Not quite sure what they're going to do with him, but the numbers say it all. Even with Joe Rogan, 42 tracks, but he had 24 uses of the N-word. Now think about that word and how it polarizes. So he used it and defended it. CNN said his defense of the flippant use of that word is another 1/6 moment for America. And they had juxtaposition of Rogan and Kaepernick to say, hey, look, the double standard in society. This guy can be a popular racist with $200 million contracts, and this guy can't even get in the game. Engineered. Not a coincidence that Kaepernick's attorney had something to do with the compilation of those 24 uses of the N-word. My point being, again, 24, 42, 113 characters who are in the public eye taking a fall. So I look at Manson as about to likely take a fall, and we'll see how that develops. Let us continue. Oh, by the way, side note, Yara Sachs, politician, says that honk honk is code for Hail Hitler. And I think that matters now because the truckers are coming down. I got this email from Flag and Cross yesterday. We Americans, inspired by Canada's Freedom Convoy, are going to protest against the mask and vaccine mandates, and we're expecting tens of thousands in our departure on the Interstate 40 towards DC on Wednesday. So tomorrow, which is also the end of the, 22 days of peace, tomorrow the 24th, there's a convoy heading to DC. In fact, they're putting fencing up right now around the White House. Echo Charlie says, Rust was a Western. Not bad. And wasn't it in a place called Coronado? Like Corona? But yeah, you're right about that. It's a Western. And we're talking about West as a symbol. Or as a West is symbolically the Titanic that's about to sink. And you know, a Kraken could sink a Titanic, right? All right, let's continue here. I brought up the other day how Baby Yoda is just a shaved gizmo. And it's a fact. I found a lot of memes that echo that sentiment, so it's not just me. That little green baby gizmo, Baby Yoda is just Gizmo with a haircut. Nothing's original, everything's recycled. Okay, so we were going through an email from Boring NPC, who's talking about these 42-year connections with these episodes and a house divided coming up. Okay, we'll continue later. I have a few more emails I want to get to and voicemails, but I'll probably play those tonight when we do open phones. I'm also going to premiere a podcast that was recorded. Just got to put that together, and that would be for the Conspiratainment Radio Network, and that was a conversation I had with Micah Dank. Okay, here we go. 20 years on, Associated Press, Richard Drew still gets asked about the Falling Man photograph. This is the photograph owned by Falling Man Elton John, who almost became ROCKETMAN, as they say, during his 11:19 a.m. emergency landing on 2/22/2022. Spirit Jordan says Kanye's West, his son is named North. Right, you get Northwest. By the way, I'll be getting the live stream notifications by text turned back on today. That was delayed because of a bank holiday. Okay, so there's a new movie coming out called The Man Who Fell to Earth. I guess it's a remake or it might be a series. It's on Showtime. But this is another one of these movies that, predictably, is ultimately about global warming. It's about a man who comes down from Mars to tell us that Mars was destroyed because of, I think, probably capitalism. But basically, yes, pollution, environmentalism didn't take off up there. And so Earth is on the same trajectory. Let me play a clip here.
I saw something. It freaked me out.
Okay, so this guy comes down from Mars, and his message is...
I'm talking to someone from another planet.
So am I.
Do you have anyone? A family? Children?
They are waiting for me if they survived.
They're waiting for me if they survived. And so this is the Martian talking about how their world was destroyed.
Dying. Earth
My planet is dying and Earth is on the same trajectory.
is on the same trajectory.
Can you help me?
Reoccurring theme. Again, environmentalism always works its way into this. And finally, science as savior. You're a scientist. You can save us. Just like the 33-year-old scientist savior in Moonfall.
You are a scientist. You have the potential for all things.
You have the potential for all things. The worship of scientists. Rocco says a new TV series called Snowfall is coming soon. Definitely be watching that one. To me, it's opposition research. Oh, look at this. You have to delete a tweet. I have to delete a tweet really quick here. Apparently I melted a snowflake. You may not engage in the targeted harassment of someone. Okay, so I did a tweet. Let me see if I can actually show you what it was. It was a drawing I did of Marcus Goldfinch, aka Q. It was actually a charcoal portrait. I don't think it was a bad drawing. But yeah, apparently he took some action here. He reported it. And if I delete it, I'm allowed back on Twitter. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to delete my art. And in 11 hours and 33 minutes, I'll be back on Twitter. Yep, Q. Literally Q. The guy that sent the guy to spear his kid to death. The guy that sent Owen Schroyer to the Capitol. Q Anon. The high-level civilian/military intel operative who's giving us the biggest intel drop of all time. Q got offended by one of my drawings and reported me. And I tweeted it to him. And the thing is, his account is closed. As in, like, you can't even follow him. He has no followers. It's one of these accounts that's private. But anyway, I guess he didn't like my art. I'm not offended. Okay, let us continue. Marvey says the pandemic is about to end and World War is about to begin. Yeah, I figured this. I figured that now they're moving into the environmentalist lockdown. And it was always about the Greta reset. This great reset was pre-planned probably a century ago. But it was always the Greta reset. An environmentalist thing. No coincidences here. With the names, that is. So now they're like, take off your mask. No more mandate. But they might as well say, put your mask on your tailpipe. Because now we got to curb global warming. Putin's sick joke on the world. This is from the West Australian. Putin as Joker. I kind of ignored it when I first saw it, but someone in Discord mentioned it, and now I think about it. Every Joker has a Batman in this PSYOP entertainment complex, so he's the chaos agent. He's the provocateur. Putin is the one who is being used to instigate, create chaos, which will then necessitate order to be restored. So it's this order out of chaos thing. So yes, war is probably coming next because you no longer need masks because the pandemic is over. Unless they veer into AIDS. I've been noticing a lot of actually AIDS vid or COVIDs. Like, oh, get tested for AIDS. And I'm like, what happens when people who, like virgins start coming down with AIDS? And the only thing they all have in common is they got the pokey. Like, that's weird. What's their excuse going to be? They're going to say AIDS is airborne? Oh, yeah, if you don't have a mask on, you're spreading AIDS. Oh, yeah, you don't have to worry about the vax, but yeah, you got to put your AIDS mask on. Like, it's literally like a face condom now. Put on your AIDS mask before you come in the restaurant. We don't want you to infect our babies with AIDS, our kids with AIDS. With your face nudity. Yeah, face nudists spread airborne AIDS. Pure-blooded face nudists. Not allowed. Masked goobloods only. Alright, Rocco, I will accept you on Twitter. I have another Twitter account. It's @TimOsman_. Make sure you put an underscore beneath it. Charles says at least DC's building a fence. Yeah, I didn't think Democrats believed in walls. Like, oh, why build a wall? They'll just climb over it. Okay. Why are you putting a fence up then? We will be live open phones later on tonight. There's just so much to go through right now. I want to make sure we haven't missed anything. We've talked about Off the Edge, the book by Kelly Weil. She talks, look, I read the book, most of it, skimmed it. I'm going to read it more in detail. There's some very fascinating material about the history of Samuel Rowbotham and the flat earth topic and the debate and in the last couple hundred years. But she's not objective. She thinks you can see 8 feet of curve in 2 miles. So if your friend walks 2 miles down the street, they go over the hump. And if you read the book, you walk away from it thinking that flat earth is best represented by Eric Dubay with his raps, "The Earth is Flat" and "Hail Hitler." Like they made that connection. They 100% just linked it. They said, no, the whole thing with flat earth is ultimately about Adolf Hitler and Hitler worship. And the problem is you wouldn't be wrong if you arrived at that assessment just by looking at Dubay. All right, also, there's a new episode of South Pole in the works. We were doing the storyboard last night. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be about Domo the Clown. So I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but South Pole is back in production. We have a lot of ideas. Again, I'm not going to give you any spoilers here, but if you want to join the Discord server, simply go in to the room that says South Pole, and we can get you started. If you're a novice or you're an advanced meme tech, all are welcome. We're also happy to have people chime in with their own voices. We like to have lots of voices for the characters that we play. All right, let me check the comments one more time here. Yeah, real Tim Osman. Oh, that's the account you need to use is Tim OZMAN _. Make sure you put the underscore in there. Another room that we have in the Discord server that I wanted to spend some time on today, and I didn't quite get to it, but I will get to it later, is the fake space room. We have a room that's nothing but fake space news, and I hadn't been in there for some time, and in a couple of months, and I went in there last night, and we could probably spend a couple of hours going through here. Like, let me go through this one just to show you where the globe believers are at mentally.
Check out this.
Okay, so I've been looking at the outer space footage of the ISS. And I noticed this thing, and it was sent to me, and I was looking at it. It's like some type of it looked like a bat flying behind the space station. So this guy here, this is Mr. MBB33. He believes that you're seeing a dragon outside the space station, as in a dragon in space. Let me play a clip here.
Flying in space. It's hard to even
in
say.
space, y'all.
So again,
that's a
form your own
dragon.
Conclusions. That's
as far as I'm.
So it looks like a dragon, he's saying, and it's very blurry. Now there is a there. So I figured, the space station is obviously underwater, a desalinated pool. So I thought, well, maybe it could be, I don't know, a fish, perhaps some kind of a manta ray. My problem with this idea of it being a dragon or even a bat, possibly a bat, actually. Possibly a bat. But again, I think this thing's underwater, and I think the diffusion of the light gives that away. So I'm actually thinking what you're looking at here isn't really a bat or a dragon, but an octopus. That's what I think you're looking at here. I think you're seeing an octopus by the ISS. Now, this guy will never get it right because he believes the space station's in outer space. Well, I'm sorry, but if you're in outer space, why would you need to flap your wings? Wings don't work in space. In the hypothetical environment of outer space, wings would be useless. So there's no way this is a dragon outside the space station. But you arrive at that if you're a true believer in NASA. This guy believes in the space station, so he finds it plausible that dragons exist in space. But again, it's a blurry thing, but the best I can tell is that it's an octopus. An octopus moves precisely the way this thing does, kind of a flapping, lurching movement, shooting forward, fanning out its legs, and then shooting itself forward again. So I think we're looking at an octopus, and this might even be intentional. or maybe not intentional, but they might have released them into the pool. So if you check this article out, SpaceX sends squids to space. SpaceX is sending thousands of squids to the space station. Why are they doing that? Well, because the way an astronaut adjusts their body to low gravity in space is similar to a squid's symbiotic relationship with natural bacteria. Sure. So they're sending squids to space. This has been going on for some time. And now people are seeing these squid-like octopus things just swimming around in the background. Look, I got a clip here. That is 100% a squid. I'm going to, I can't adjust this contrast here on the fly, but I see the bulbous head, I see the legs. There is a squid outside of the space station. Look at 5 minutes and 39 seconds into the clip of the video I'm posting in the chat. There is a kraken in the ISS pool. Yes. David A. Pryor says there is a kraken in the ISS pool. Now that's also very significant here because last summer they said there are cracks in the ISS. And this is about the time that you had issues with Russia and Americans getting along up there. There was some kind of a beef there. But look, Russian cosmonaut finds cracks in the ISS. Cracks found in the International Space Station. ISS is cracked. Irreparable failures. Cracks were found in the ISS. A new set of cracks. Crack in the ISS. Cracks may indicate the beginning of the end for the ISS. The ISS is starting to crack. They released the kraken. And here you have a literal octopus like a kraken, a squid, but yes, that is not a dragon. That is an octopus. But yes, at 5:38 to 5:39, you can clearly see it. And I was up late last night looking at videos of octopuses. All right, Squidgate. Squidgate. You know what? I'm going to put Squidgate in the title of this video today because this is a big deal. But look how we are analyzing this, trying to figure out what it is, asking questions, and we arrive at a likely solution. Whereas this guy is like, yep, it's a dragon in space.
I don't claim to know. I'm just going based off of what we see.
You'll agree, maybe you won't, but nevertheless, very intriguing. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then comment your opinion. I'd like to see what y'all think.
Again, this is a guy who says dragon has been caught on ISS's live feed. And whenever you look at the footage here, look, okay, this is also something that people don't get because they're visually illiterate. So if you look at the ISS footage from space, or it's supposed to be from space, it's crystal clear. Think about this. This is major league cognitive dissonance here. So look out the window of the ISS. And I also like to point this out. It often looks like the Twin Towers there. But when you look outside of the space station, when you're looking out at the Earth from space, you see it's crystal clear. It couldn't be any clearer. You can see the Earth, you can see cities, the astronauts, their lenses reflect everything perfectly. Look how crystal clear this is. Like, really examine that. This is a great photograph. I think the reflections are weird, but my point is this. We're supposed to believe that this guy's in outer space. That he's just outside looking in and you're photographing him. But now look at the underwater footage. How come it's so blurry? How come it's crystal clear, but when they're on spacewalks, it's blurry? What's the difference here? Just going back and forth, I can tell you the difference. The difference is underwater, light diffuses differently. The water, it breaks up the light differently. You can tell it's got a blur. It's got a glow. It's got a haze. It's not sharp. So how do you explain that disparity? If you're a true believer in the space station, how come it looks so fuzzy whenever it's underwater and they're all swimming versus clear? Maybe because it's underwater.
I slow down, and I'm going to leave
He does a good job enhancing
entirely
this.
up to you. What
Leaves
do
it
you
entirely
see?
up to you.
I've had other people look at this before I've shared it with you guys, and I didn't say a word, and they said, why does it look like That thing has flapping wings, and I said that's the question that I had too. So they noticed it on their own, and I know that based off of what we understand about space,
Look at the range of
that this
motion.
is impossible. But that looks like
Big.
some sort of a
Whoosh,
winged creature
whoosh.
flying in space.
Yeah, it's not a winged creature flying in space. These guys are disinformation agents trying to hide the squid.
Yeah, like
They're trying to hide the squid.
it's hard to even say.
An obvious thing. But again, they start off with a faulty premise here, that outer space is where this event is happening. But no, it's a pool, and as I showed you from some articles, Musk has been releasing squids into the space station. Thousands of squids. Again, crack in the ISS, Kraken, good find there. All right, let's go ahead and continue. I have a few more things I wanted to get through. I'm looking through the fake space section. I'll be going through the Discord server in depth here later. You're not going to want to miss this research. You're not going to want to miss some of these memes that people have been pulling up, and also videos. So here's a video that Go Find the Others posted where you can see a rocket launching on a time lapse. Now again, it's sped up. It goes up and it goes down. It just kind of lobs itself out into the ocean. It's a time lapse, and now I guess this is from the Falcon 9 Atlas V launch back in 2019. So you're looking at a rocket supposedly going into space. Now the thing is, at the point where it's going back down is where they cut to the footage of it, quote, in space. But as you can see here, these trajectories are parabolic arcs. They're not going high enough to even deposit anything up in space. Some will say it's because they don't want to hit the dome, and they're trying to hide the dome because the Earth is flat. Well, I don't think the dome is that low, if there was a dome. I think it's more likely that this is all just sleight of mind. It goes out of sight, out of mind, and then they switch to another feed where you see the so-called live feed happening. All right, again, I'm going through the rest of our Discord server to make sure I haven't missed anything with regard to the DONDA2 performance. We watched it together here as a watching party. So another reason to join the Discord server. We do a lot of our research there. We pull everything together, but at the same time, we also have viewing parties. Not really watching movies for entertainment, but we do it for breaking down the symbolism, the subtext, and the agendas behind these things. Again, a couple of things just to reiterate. We had 2 black beauty queens falling out of towers, one in New York, one in Miami, in recent weeks. Then yesterday we had twin Black Hawk helicopters crashing at a Fork Canyon. And this was preceded by 2 other high-profile crashes. The one in Miami was described as like a movie. Action Man and his daughter were just feet. Yeah, like a movie. This guy is describing this thing falling, and of course, nobody is really watching. Also, again, Fork Canyon, twin Black Hawks crashing. Nobody died there, but what are the chances? And then, of course, on 22222 at 11:19 a.m., Elton John nearly becomes a, quote, rocket man when he has his emergency landing. Let's see if there's anything else here. Co-founder and CEO of Kraken, one of the largest crypto exchanges, urges people to get their coins out of custodial wallets. Oh, yeah, these are people dealing with this, not just government intervention here with the financial system, but now they're getting their hands into political speech, and yeah, they can freeze your wallets. Just a heads up. The name Kraken stands out there, and again, there might be some kind of market crash coming, as foreshadowed by this Moonfall movie and all this Skyfall stuff. Also, this is true facts here, just a heads up here. Moonrock is really just petrified wood. Take a listen.
Hey NPR, in How I Built This, Guy Raz dives into the stories behind some of the world's best-known companies, Click below.
And this is from NPR, but it's a great piece. It's 30 seconds.
Entrepreneurs and idealists. Support for NPR and the following message.
By the way, NPR versus IPR, we win long term.
Get started for free at klaviyo.com/NPR.
Good morning. I'm Steve Inskeep. A prized possession in the Dutch National Museum is not what the curators thought. Back in 1969, the Apollo 11 astronauts visited the Netherlands, and the U.S. ambassador gave the Dutch prime minister what he said was a moon rock. No doubt it gave a warm feeling to the U.S. ally. But when an expert saw it in the National Museum, he said he wasn't so sure it was real. Geologists have now identified the moon rock as petrified wood.
Oh, petrified wood. What does that mean? The moon is made out of wood. The moon is made out of petrified wood. Some giant tree up there in the sky, or some part of a tree. Maybe we're just looking at the top of a tree stump. But whatever it is, the moon is made out of wood. Science. A boring NPC has another letter here. He says, Mr. Osmond, I'm glad you're keeping NASA's dinosaurs on the moon story going. It's really not so ridiculous. As you pointed out, with good script writing, it's probably a setup for Act 3, where they can explain that the petrified wood that the Apollo 11 astronauts gave to the Netherlands was from when not only the dinosaurs got sucked up to the moon, but also untold amounts of vegetation and trees. As a result, not only will the piece of petrified wood prove the theory about the meteor strike sending Earth's biomatter to the moon, but it will prove that NASA went to the moon and they brought back the moon wood to Earth. NASA wouldn't lie. Now that's great. I actually agree with that assessment. They have a perfect setup, a perfect cover. Okay, so this week is palindrome week. Every day is mirrored. It's 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, and so on. And it might tie into the fact that Kanye West is an anagram for nasty week. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I will be responding to voicemails this evening, and I'm going to be starting up the live stream basically 24/7 again. I mean, we do have replays going on at the Conspiratainment Network, but IPR is its own thing. We're just joining up and networking with other content creators that have similar think tanks and come from a similar perspective. We don't have to agree on anything really, except on methodology. Namely, news is fake and the burden of proof doesn't belong to us. And if you don't want to be lost in a world of misinformation, you have to think for yourself. You have to perceive for yourself. It's not enough to think for yourself because they supply the list of options of things you can think about. You have to perceive for yourself, meaning evaluating what comes to the TV as not quite objective, as possibly having been tampered with, edited, trick photography, liars, crisis actors, etc. Anyway, this is Chief Crow, Auto Hoax, or GTFO. If you don't want a GTFO, join our Discord server. You're always welcome there. 24/7. Appreciate all the tips, all the puzzle pieces people have been dropping off. Evolving Grace says, I just signed up. Cool, we'll see you in Discord. This is Chief Crow, Auto Hoax, or GTFO.